is it possible to repair without ever talking about the issue?
No.
It's impossible all the time. So okay, so let's be extreme. Say we married, I'm Jew and you're Catholic, and we can never see eye to eye on that. But in every other way, we pretty much get along and can repair the other stuff. But when it comes to this and how we raise our kids and religion, we decided we just won't talk about religion anymore because it never gets anywhere.
Right.
Are you saying that aspect of the relationship will never be repaired?
I think that's a source of disconnection. Part of it is that you may remain Jew and you may remain Catholic, but how do we sort of repair around that disconnection?
Because we can't we can't connect on a spiritual or religious level. Is that what that is?
Not necessarily. One of the things is that maybe people are sort of feeling invalidated in terms of their experience. People are feeling like their religious background isn't important to the other person. Yeah, that's what we want to do in terms of repair. To know that just my perspective, my own religious views or spiritual views are important to you.
So you always have to dialogue to repair. And sometimes nothing's harder than facing the pain. What advice would you give to be brave enough to face the discomfort that comes with confrontation and becoming comfortable with uncomfortable emotions and not judging myself by them? Because society does preach you have good emotions and bad emotions. And I remember years ago when I had a health coach and she told me emotions aren't good or bad, they just are. The problem is most of us are raised where our good emotions are validated. It's good if you're happy and if you celebrate and those things, but stop your crying. Or when you face vex or we're punished for anger or frustration and disappointment. So you have a lot of people who are raised and don't know how to feel their emotions. They don't know how to name it or to sit with it. And then you say to them, oh yeah, we're going to need you to go through this pain now and y'all going to go through it together and heal each other. That's over their heads. How do you get them into that space?
And that's a process, right? People aren't going to go to that space immediately, right? So we sort of prepare them, we do this groundwork that sort of allows them to be able to sort of enter that space. Part of that groundwork is feeling safer with each other, right? So our bodies resonate with each other, we co-regulate with each other, we slow each other down so we can go there.
How do I co-regulate with my partner? How do I help my partner slow down?
Before we go there, can I tack on to something Jomo was saying earlier? Just in terms of, so you were talking about how do people sit in that vulnerable space if that's so over their head, they don't know how to sit with their emotions or label them. That's a process that we do actually in sessions. So we will stay with people and help them walk into themselves and sit in their body and identify, right, what is that? What happens for you when you go to that space? And they'll maybe say that my chest is tight or my throat hurts, and you then are able to register, right, that sounds like maybe it could be that you feel sad in that space or you feel scared in that space, and you walk them into that deeper emotion slowly and safely so they're able to sit in it in a new way.
So you help them to feel it and identify it and name it. And what happens if in the moment it's too overwhelming?
Yeah, and that happens. People get flooded. So then we just slow it down and we pull it back. Or we'll let them sit maybe in that space and we'll go to the partner and allow that person to sit there. But we just slow it down and try to stay with them in that overwhelming space.
And you find the more they do it, is the easier it gets.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the whole idea, right? Very often, because we're sort of in a negative cycle happens over and over again. So our bodies are primed in terms of fight or flight because we're trying to connect with each other and we don't feel that connection. We have to do this process of sort of being vulnerable, talking and going deeper in terms of emotions over and over again, so our body can move, our body can start to feel safe.
And we stay in that vulnerable space for a longer time each session.
Increasing that window tolerance.
Yes, because people can get flooded maybe just by even thinking about being vulnerable. So you start there at what does it even feel like to think about this space, and then you expand it.
I like that. I have a friend who everything negative he's feeling, he says he's annoyed. And I say to him, there's a full spectrum of emotions. Everything isn't just annoyed. I said, are you sure it's annoyance or is it more like anger? He's like, I don't know. but I'm annoyed.
Right.
I'm like, well, it's the first stage to anger.
Mhm.
And can you describe it to me?
Right.
And I have to literally
That's
walk
lovely
through
though.
him.
That's lovely.
Like,
Yeah.
the other day I saw him and he said to me, he said, I feel frustrated. And I went, oh, you just used another word. And he said, yeah, I've been trying. But he's never been comfortable with negative emotions. And, you know, I'm going to throw this out here and say the more difficult ones are men.
Right. So, just as you're saying, Michelle, our experience of emotions is also very gendered. Our socialization experience in relation to emotions are very gendered. So I think in terms of women's socialization experiences, both men and women experience emotions. You know, we both can get vulnerable. But women sort of are given this sort of dictionary in relation to feelings and feeling words. They're encouraged to be able to talk about their emotions. From very early, we discourage men to talk about emotions because we tell them that they need to be tough.
Right.
They need to push it down.
Yeah. Men are not really given the permission to try to sit in that
There you
space.
go.
How do I help my partner to be more comfortable with emotions, especially negative ones and loving ones? Because you know, there are men who say, I show you I love you, I don't see what I have to tell you.
Right.
How do we
Yeah.
help our partners with that?
That's a nice question. I think one of the things is also just sort of noticing when we do feel emotion and being able to sort of validate when the person enters that particular space.
How do we validate it?
Yeah.
Good for you, you're sad.
And I really appreciate you sort of taking this risk with me. Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. So you're acknowledging it and you're affirming them.
And saying that it's okay to be in that space.
Yeah.
It's okay. What about women who don't like to see emotional men? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, that this is somebody that you also want to be able to experience in a variety of different types of ways. Yeah. And when you sort of experience that sadness, it means that he's taking this risk with you.
A question. What I'm getting from you is that a healthy relationship looks like the ability to face conflict, confront difficult feelings and have difficult conversations, and build and maintain connection.
Right.
How do I know how to choose a partner that will be more willing to give me that? Because that's work, you know.
Right.
Everything you just said
Yeah.
was work.
Yeah.
So if I want a healthy relationship with a partner and I'm single, could be following divorce or just never married or, you know, recent breakup, what advice would you give to me as to the kind of characteristics or personality traits I should look for when choosing a partner?
Right. I think you have to look for someone who is able to sit in those more vulnerable spaces, or someone who's willing to do the work to be comfortable to sit in those vulnerable spaces. People who are able to sit with themselves in a place of self-awareness of maybe what their emotions are and just in those spaces, and then just understanding that relationships take work.
Romance. How do I keep the spark alive and what do I do when it dies? Do I go find myself a toy boy?
No. Not
Do I open the marriage? Romance.
Yeah.
How do I keep the spark alive and what do I do when it's dying?
So part of it is just sort of also, there are these opportunities for people to be able to do things that make each other feel special and important. And that's what romance really is, right? Romance is when people sort of have these opportunities to feel validated, to feel valued.
To feel seen and loved and affection and all of those things.
Yes. And there are a variety of ways, of course, that we can communicate love.
So that, and I'm being fringe here, when we look at stuff like open relationships, one of the arguments they use, besides the fact that monogamy is not natural, they move beyond that argument and they say you can have deep, true love for someone and over time the sexual part fades, but you still love them.
Right.
How do you navigate that? Do we just accept that after 20 and 30 years of marriage we shouldn't expect any sexual activity or sexual attraction? How do we deal with that?
Well, I think that couples also have to expect that sex will change, especially from women from the biological perspective. Same with men with that testosterone dip as they get older, but understanding that you know, as you go through transitions as a partnership, your sex life is going to change. So I think it's looking at being able to explore that again and with that safety of what maybe is different, because sex also goes back to those needs. What needs of mine aren't being met, and am I able to share that in a safe way? So looking at maybe that from a desire discrepancy lens, which is also something that we do in sessions.
What's desire discrepancy?
So you have a high sex drive, I have a really low sex drive. Right? So your need isn't being met because you want to have sex all the time and I don't, and oftentimes with people who are the lower sex drive partner, it's not actually that they technically have a lower sex drive, it's that what pumps up their sex drive isn't there for them. So things like for women, or let me start with men, they often need only like one cue, which is more of a visual cue, and they're aroused, right? A physical or visual cue. Women need that mental stimulation, that audio stimulation, that physical stimulation, that visual stimulation to get aroused. So we need a little bit more. So I may be lower desire, but that's because what I need isn't there. So it's not actually that I don't want to have sex, but it's what makes me want to have sex isn't present.
So if you create the environment and create it consistently, you might find it's not quite that the sex drive increases, but it stays on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a nice metaphor. Yeah, you turn the light switch on, right?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Or you know those fader lights, the ones that you can. So it never actually goes off. It just stays in between. Okay, well, thank you so much. I picked your brains a lot, got a lot of information that I will work with, and I'm so grateful that you were willing to have this sit down with me.
Welcome.
Thank
Thanks for having us.
you.